The Discovery captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the dying star system through the main viewport. The red giant pulsed weakly, casting crimson shadows across the bridge. His crew had been scanning this forgotten corner of space for 3 weeks, searching for anything worth salvaging before the star finally collapsed. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Zoe Mitchell from the sensor station, her voice tight with excitement. "I'm picking up something unusual on the fourth planet. It's not natural." Marcus moved to her station, studying the readings. The planet was a frozen wasteland, its atmosphere long since stripped away by the dying star's radiation. But there, buried beneath kilometers of ice, was a structure, something massive and geometric, definitely artificial. "Take us down," Marcus ordered. "Full environmental suits, everyone. This place has been dead for centuries." The landing party consisted of Marcus, Zoe, and Chief Engineer Paul Hendricks. Their boots crunched on the crystalline surface as they approached the excavation site. The automated diggers had worked for hours, revealing a complex of gleaming metal and strange crystal formations. "These materials," Paul muttered, running his scanner over the walls. "I've never seen anything like them. They're conducting energy even in this cold." They descended through corridors that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The architecture was beautiful but alien, all flowing curves and impossible angles. At the center of the complex, they found her. She floated in a chamber filled with luminous fluid suspended in what appeared to be some kind of stasis pod. Her skin was a deep silver blue, and intricate patterns covered her arms and face like living tattoos. She was humanoid, but clearly not human, with elongated features and hands that ended in delicate crystalline claws. "Is she alive?" Zoe whispered. Paul's scanner chirped. "Vital signs are stable, weak but stable. She's been in this state for, God, Marcus, the reading suggests thousands of years." As they studied the pod, the alien's eyes suddenly opened. They were completely black, like looking into deep space, but they held intelligence. She looked at each of them in turn, then her gaze fixed on Marcus. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. "Can we wake her up?" Marcus asked. "The technology is beyond anything we have," Paul replied. "But there are manual controls here, simple pressure plates. It's almost as if they were designed for other species to understand." Marcus hesitated. This could be first contact with an entirely new civilization. The implications were staggering, but looking at those intelligent, desperate eyes, he knew he couldn't leave her here to die with her world. "Do it," he said. Paul pressed the sequence of plates, and the pod began to drain. The alien fell forward, gasping, and Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. She was surprisingly light, her body trembling with weakness. She spoke in a language that sounded like singing wind and breaking glass. When she realized they couldn't understand, she pressed her palm against Marcus's forehead. Suddenly, images flooded his mind. A beautiful world with floating cities and crystal spires. A proud civilization that lived in harmony with their environment. Then came the invasion, ships of dark metal and cruel design, battles in space and on the ground, the systematic extermination of her people. "Kira," she whispered, her voice now somehow understandable. "My name is Kira. I am Zeth-Hai, daughter of the Silver Moon. I am the last of my people." Her words carried such profound sadness that Zoe felt tears forming in her eyes. "How long have you been here?" "Since the burning of Zeth Mora. 3,000 of your years, perhaps more. I waited for someone to find me to tell the story of my people. I thought I would die alone, forgotten." Marcus helped her stand, supporting her weight. "You're not alone anymore. We're humans from Earth, and we're going to help you." Kira looked at him with those star-deep eyes. "Your species is young, but I sense great strength in you. Why would you help one who is already lost?" "Because that's what humans do," Marcus replied simply. "We don't leave people behind. As they prepared to leave the dying world, Kira looked back at the complex that had been her tomb and sanctuary. The devourers who destroyed my people, they still exist. They consume worlds, leaving nothing behind. If they find your Earth, then we'll be ready for them, Marcus said firmly. Together. For the first time in millennia, something like hope flickered in Kira's ancient eyes. The awakening, the medical bay of the horizon's edge hummed with activity as Dr. James Torres worked to stabilize Kira. Her physiology was unlike anything in human medical databases, but her body showed clear signs of advanced stasis sickness. Her crystalline skin patterns had dulled, and her breathing was shallow. Her cellular structure is fascinating, Dr. Torres explained to Marcus. She appears to be part organic, part crystalline matrix. The crystals in her body store and conduct energy in ways that shouldn't be possible. Kira had been unconscious for 2 days, muttering in her native language during fever dreams. When she finally awoke, she found engineer Hendricks sitting beside her bed, working on a small device. "What are you creating?" she asked weakly. Paul looked up, surprised. "You're awake! I'm trying to build a translator that can work with your language patterns." The telepathic connection you made with the captain was temporary, right? Kira nodded slowly. "It requires physical contact and drains my energy. Your technology might be more efficient." She watched him work with growing interest. "Your species creates tools instinctively even in small moments. The Zethai were similar, but we grew our technology from living crystal. Your approach is refreshingly chaotic." "Chaotic?" Paul grinned. "Lady, you haven't seen anything yet." Over the next few days, Kira recovered her strength while the crew prepared for the journey back to Earth. She spent hours with Zoe, learning about human culture and sharing stories of her own people. The Zethai had been explorers and artists, creating beautiful floating cities that moved with the tides of their world's oceans. "We believed in harmony," Kira explained. "Every building was grown, not built. Every ship was a living thing that we partnered with, not controlled. When the devourers came, our peaceful nature made us vulnerable." "What are the devourers exactly?" Zoe asked. Kira's expression darkened. "They are the opposite of creation. Where we nurtured life, they consume it. They strip worlds bare, turning everything into fuel for their fleet. They have no home world, no culture. They exist only to consume." Marcus joined them in the observation lounge where Kira had been watching the stars. "I've been thinking about what you showed me. These devourers. How do we fight something like that?" "The Zethai tried to fight them with beauty and wisdom," Kira replied bitterly. "It was not enough. But your species. I have observed you these past days. You argue, you question, you refuse to accept limitations. This quality might be what saves you." She stood and moved to the viewport, her movements now graceful despite her recent awakening. "I wish to see your Earth, to understand what makes humans different." "What if we could restore your people?" Marcus asked suddenly. "Your stasis pod, your technology, there must be others." Kira shook her head sadly. "The devourers were thorough. They destroyed every colony, every outpost. I am truly the last. But what about genetic reconstruction? Cloning? Your DNA patterns are preserved in that crystal matrix in your body," Dr. Torres suggested, having overheard the conversation. For the first time since her awakening, Kira looked genuinely shocked. "Your species would attempt to restore another species entirely? Why?" "Because diversity makes us stronger," Marcus said, "and because no one should be alone in the universe." Kira touched the crystal patterns on her arm, which began to glow softly. "The genetic memory of my people is indeed preserved within me. But to restore the Zethai would require technology beyond even our ancient knowledge." "Then we'll figure it out," Paul said confidently. Humans are really good at solving impossible problems. As the horizon's edge jumped to hyperspace, heading for Earth, Kira stood at the viewport watching the star lines streak past. She was no longer the last of her kind in a dying system. She was part of something new, something that might have the power to bring her people back from extinction. "Your species puzzles me," she said to Marcus. "You barely know me, yet you offer everything to help." Marcus smiled. "That's humanity for you. We collect strays." Deep in space behind them, something stirred. Ancient sensors detected the hyperspace. Signature of the human ship and cold intelligence began to plan. The Devourers had found a new target. The Alliance Earth's orbital defense platforms tracked the approaching vessel as it dropped out of hyperspace. The horizon's edge had been gone for 6 months, and Command was eager for their report. Admiral Victoria Hayes waited in the docking bay as the crew disembarked, but she wasn't prepared for the figure that walked beside Captain Kane. Kira moved with fluid grace, her crystalline skin patterns shifting color in the artificial light. The few dozen personnel in the bay fell silent as she passed. She was clearly alien, yet somehow familiar, like a reflection of humanity seen through a crystal prism. "Admiral," Marcus said formally, "I'd like you to meet Kira, last survivor of the Zeth-High civilization." Admiral Hayes extended her hand, and Kira studied the gesture before accepting it. The contact sent a brief flash of images between them, showing glimpses of vast fleets and dying worlds. "The Devourers," Hayes said immediately. "We need to talk." Within hours, Earth's leadership was assembled in the high-security briefing room beneath Geneva. Representatives from every major nation sat around the curved table as Kira shared her people's history through the translation device Paul had perfected. "The Devourers travel in massive fleets," Kira explained, her translated voice carrying an odd musical quality. "They have no fixed home, moving from system to system like a plague. Their ships are biological, grown rather than built, and they can adapt to any defense." President Chen of the Earth Alliance leaned forward. "How many worlds have they consumed?" "In my lifetime, thousands. They have existed for millennia, perhaps longer. Your species is young, but the Devourers have learned to be patient." General Rodriguez of the Seoul Defense Force studied the tactical displays. "Our current fleet couldn't handle even a small Devourer force. We need better weapons, better ships." "Weapons alone will not be enough," Kira said. "The Zeth-High had powerful energy weapons that could crack moons. The Devourers adapted. They consumed our technology and made it their own." "Then what do you suggest?" Admiral Hayes asked. Kira's patterns flickered thoughtfully. "My people fought alone. Each species the Devourers encountered stood by themselves, proud and isolated. But humans, you are different. You form alliances. You adapt. You refuse to accept defeat." Over the following weeks, Earth transformed. The revelation of the Devourer threat sparked a unity unprecedented in human history. Every nation contributed resources to the new project, codenamed Genesis. Kira worked closely with human scientists, sharing Zeth-High knowledge while learning human techniques. The combination proved revolutionary, where Zeth-High technology was elegant and harmonious. Human engineering was robust and adaptable. "Your species builds things that break," Kira observed, watching engineers test a new hull design. "Then you build them stronger." Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's lead scientist, laughed. "We call it fail fast, learn faster. Every failure teaches us something." The breakthrough came when Kira suggested combining human industrial techniques with Zeth-High bio-crystalline growth technology. The result was ships that could repair themselves, armor that adapted to incoming fire, and weapons that evolved in real time. "It's alive," Paul whispered, watching the first test ship's hull ripple and shift. "The whole damn ship is alive." "Not alive," Kira corrected. Living. There is a difference. Alive implies independent consciousness. Living means it responds and adapts while remaining part of something greater. But Kira's greatest contribution wasn't technological. She proposed something that had never been tried before, something that could potentially bring her people back from extinction. The genetic templates of my people are preserved in my body's crystal matrix, she explained to the assembled scientists. But rather than simple cloning, what if we could create hybrid offspring? Zeth-Hai genetic memory combined with human adaptability. The ethical debates raged for days. Creating a new hybrid species was unprecedented. But as reports came in of dead systems at the galaxy's edge, systems stripped bare by an advancing fleet, the urgency became clear. "The Devourers are coming," Admiral Hayes announced to the Genesis team. "Long-range scouts have detected their forward elements. We have perhaps 2 years before they reach our space." Kira stood before the massive holographic display showing the approaching threat. Thousands of bioships moved through space like a living tide, consuming everything in their path. 2 years, she said quietly. The Zeth-Hai had centuries to prepare, and it wasn't enough. "Then we'll have to be better than enough," Marcus replied. "We'll be human." For the first time since her awakening, Kira smiled. It was the expression of hope mixed with fierce determination, very human despite her alien features. "Yes," she agreed, "we will be human, and perhaps we will also be something more." The preparation. The shipyards of Luna had never seen such activity. Massive construction frames held the growing hulks of the new Genesis-class vessels, their biocrystalline hulls pulsing with inner light. Each ship was unique, grown rather than built, adapting its design to its intended purpose. Kira stood in the observation deck of Genesis Station, watching the construction with mixed emotions. The largest ship, the Synthesis, was nearly complete. Its hull incorporated patterns that would have been familiar to any Zeth-Hai, but the underlying structure was purely human in its robust practicality. "Second thoughts?" Marcus asked, joining her at the viewport. He now wore the insignia of Fleet Admiral, promoted to oversee the Genesis fleet. "Not thoughts," Kira replied. "Memories. The last ships of my people were beautiful, graceful things that sang as they flew. These are—" She paused, searching for words. "Ugly but effective?" Marcus suggested with a grin. "Magnificent in their—" "Defiance," Kira corrected. "They do not sing, they roar." Behind them, the station's corridors bustled with activity. Human and hybrid crew members worked side by side, preparing for humanity's first major engagement with an alien threat. The hybrid program had succeeded beyond all expectations. The volunteers who had undergone the genetic integration process retained their human consciousness while gaining Zeth-Hai abilities. Commander Elena Vasquez was one of the first hybrids, her human features now accented with subtle crystalline patterns along her temples. She could interface directly with the bioships, feeling their needs and responses as if they were extensions of her own body. "The Defiance is ready for its final trials," she reported to Marcus. "Her combat systems are responding perfectly. She wants to fight." "Ships don't want things," Marcus replied automatically, then stopped. "Do they?" "The Genesis ships do," Elena said seriously. "They're not just alive, they're aware. Not sentient, but purposeful. They know what they were created for." This was the revelation that had shocked everyone. The combination of Zeth-Hai biotechnology and human engineering had created something unprecedented. Ships with a form of instinctive consciousness. They could think, adapt, and even make tactical decisions independently while remaining loyal to their crews. In the biolabs, Dr. Torres studied the latest batch of volunteer candidates. The integration process was voluntary and irreversible, creating humans with enhanced capabilities but at the cost of no longer being entirely human. "The psychological profiles are remarkable," he explained to Kira. The volunteers show increased spatial awareness, enhanced reflexes, and the ability to process multiple data streams simultaneously. But they also report feeling connected to something larger. The crystalline matrix creates a form of shared consciousness, Kira explained. Not a hive mind, but a network of awareness. My people called it the Song of Becoming. And they're all volunteers, Dr. Torres emphasized. No one was forced. They chose this transformation to defend Earth. The hybrids had become the elite crews of the Genesis fleet. They could operate the bioships at maximum efficiency, their enhanced nervous systems allowing them to process the massive amounts of data required for space combat. But not everyone was comfortable with the changes. Senator Williams of the Terra Coalition had become the most vocal opponent of the hybrid program. "We're changing the fundamental nature of humanity," he argued during a heated session of the Global Defense Council. "What happens when this war is over? What happens to these hybrids? They remain part of humanity," Admiral Hayes responded firmly. "Enhanced, perhaps, but still human where it matters." "The Devourers would not make such distinctions," Kira added quietly. "To them, we are all simply fuel for their fleet." The debate was interrupted by urgent alerts from the outer system. Long-range sensors had detected the Devourer advanced scouts, still months away but confirming the projected timeline. "They're coming," Marcus announced to the assembled council. "The question is, are we ready?" The Genesis fleet now numbered 50 vessels, each one a marvel of hybrid technology. They were smaller than traditional human warships, but faster, more adaptable, and capable of rapid self-repair. Most importantly, they could work together in ways that conventional fleets couldn't match. "The bioships share information instantaneously," Elena explained during the fleet's final exercises. "When one ship learns something, they all learn it. When one adapts a defense, they all adapt." The exercises revealed another surprise. The Genesis ships fought like a single organism, moving in patterns that seemed choreographed but were actually emergent behavior arising from their shared consciousness. "It's beautiful," breathed Captain Rodriguez of the Harmony, watching the fleet maneuvers on the tactical display. "They're dancing. They're hunting," Kira corrected, her enhanced senses picking up the subtle bio-electromagnetic signatures the ships were emitting. This is how the Zeth High fleet mines hunted the great void whales in the deep ocean of space. As the final preparations concluded, Kira stood once again at the observation deck, but now she was not alone. Dozens of hybrids had gathered, their crystalline patterns glowing softly in harmony. They were no longer entirely human, but they were something new, something that might have a chance against the Devourers. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, standing beside her. "For what?" "For not giving up. For believing we could be more than we were." Kira's patterns brightened. "I was alone for 3,000 years, Admiral. I know the value of not giving up." Deep space monitors detected the first major Devourer formations dropping out of hyperspace at the galaxy's edge. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The Unity. The first battle came sooner than expected. A Devourer scout fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their bioships immediately beginning to harvest the outer asteroid belt. The Genesis fleet moved to intercept 50 vessels against over 200 alien ships. Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the synthesis, feeling the ship's living hull respond to his thoughts through the neural interface. Beside him, Kira monitored the biocrystalline networks that connected all the Genesis ships in real time. "They're not what I expected," reported Commander Vasquez from the Defiance. "These ships are different from the ones that destroyed my world. Smaller, more aggressive." Kira's patterns flickered with concern. "The Devourers adapt their forces to each new species they encounter. These ships have been modified specifically to fight humans." "How could they know our capabilities?" Marcus asked. "They've been watching," Kira replied grimly. "Learning. This is how they operate." The first engagement was unlike anything in human military history. The Devourer ships moved like living things, their hulls shifting and changing configuration, mid-battle. But the Genesis fleet moved like a single organism, each ship anticipating the actions of its companions. "They're trying to isolate individual ships," Elena reported as her vessel danced between incoming bioplasma bursts. "Standard Devourer pack tactics." "Then we don't give them the chance," Marcus replied. "All ships, implement Formation Omega." The Genesis fleet suddenly contracted, the bioships moving so close together they almost touched. To outside observers, it looked like tactical suicide, clustering together to make an easier target. But as the Devourer ships closed in, something extraordinary happened. The Genesis vessels began to merge. Their biocrystalline hulls flowed together, creating temporary connections that allowed them to share power, weapons, and defensive systems. What had been 50 individual ships became a single massive organism, bristling with weapons and protected by adaptive armor that shifted to counter each incoming attack. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Torres from the command center on Luna. "The ships are actually fusing." The merged Genesis fleet opened fire, not with conventional weapons but with focused bioenergy that disrupted the Devourer ships at a cellular level. The alien vessels began to dissolve, their biomatter breaking down and dispersing into space, but the victory came at a cost. The merging process was draining the hybrid crews, their enhanced nervous systems pushed to the limit by the shared consciousness of the fleet mind. "We can't maintain this formation much longer," Elena reported, her voice strained. "The neural load is too high." "Then we end this quickly," Marcus replied. He opened his mind fully to the ship's consciousness, feeling the synthesis respond, with surge of power that burned through his neural pathways like fire. The fleet entity that had been 50 ships focused all its energy into a single devastating attack. The beam of concentrated bioplasma struck the largest Devourer vessel, and the alien ship simply ceased to exist, its matter converted to pure energy that rippled through space. The remaining Devourer ships fled, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. But as the Genesis fleet separated back into individual vessels, several of the hybrid crew members collapsed, their enhanced nervous systems overloaded by the experience. "The cost is too high," Marcus said grimly as medical teams rushed to treat the affected crew members. "We can't fight like that again." "We won't have to," Kira replied, her patterns glowing with an inner light that seemed almost transcendent. "The Devourers have never encountered anything like what we just did. They will need time to adapt, and we have learned something important." "What's that?" "The true power of unity. When your species works together, when consciousness joins with consciousness, you become something greater than the sum of your parts. The Zethai never achieved this. We were unified, but we remained individual. Humans have the ability to become truly collective while retaining their individual identity." Over the following months, the Genesis fleet perfected new tactics based on temporary merging rather than full fusion. The hybrid crews learned to share consciousness in controlled bursts, allowing them to coordinate perfectly without the dangerous neural overload. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The children of the first-generation hybrids, born with both human and Zethai genetic patterns, showed abilities that surpassed both parent species. "They're not just pilots," Dr. Torres reported in amazement. "They're something entirely new. They can interface with the bioships at a level we never imagined possible." Young Captain Zara Chen, daughter of one of the first volunteers, demonstrated this during a training exercise. Her ship didn't just respond to her commands, it anticipated them. The vessel moved with a grace that seemed almost artistic, flowing through space like liquid thought. "The ship and I are partners," she explained simply. "We dream the same dreams." As the Devourer main fleet approached Sol system, now just months away, humanity prepared for the final battle. But they were no longer the same species that had first encountered Kira in her frozen tomb. They had become something more. The Genesis fleet now numbered over 300 vessels, each one crewed by beings who were simultaneously human and Zethai, individual and collective, mortal and transcendent. They had proven that consciousness could be shared without being lost, that unity could exist without uniformity. "My people believed in harmony," Kira said, standing once again at the observation deck, watching the fleet prepare for war. "Your people have taught me something greater. You have shown me the power of synthesis. And you've shown us that being alone doesn't mean being defeated," Marcus replied. "That even the last of a species can spark a renaissance. The hybrid children, now serving as the elite squadrons of the Genesis fleet, moved through space with an efficiency that bordered on supernatural. They were no longer entirely human, no longer entirely Zeth-High, but something new, something that the Devourers, for all their adaptability, had never encountered." As the enemy fleet appeared at the edge of the system, massive and implacable as a force of nature, humanity faced its greatest test. But they faced it together, united in a way that transcended species, consciousness joined to consciousness in a song of defiance that echoed across the stars. The last of the Zeth-High was no longer alone, and neither was humanity.